The aim of this lesson is to understand how to draw a self-portrait that has been distorted by a reflective object. I have drawn a picture of myself reflected into the inside of a spoon, but all of the principles of measuring proportions, observing and capturing accurate shapes and details, and using a wide range of tone can be applied to any subject distorted into any object. Now I've taken my inspiration from Hand with Reflecting Sphere, a lithograph print by M.C. Escher. Like Escher, I want to capture myself in the centre with my environment around me. Every tiny little detail needs to be distorted by the concave curve of the spoon. I also need to use a wide range of contrasting tone from the darkest darks to the lightest lights to add definition to the detail. In this video you will see footage of how I completed this drawing. It has been sped up, but in real life it took about an hour to complete. I started off drawing the outline of the spoon. You can see I used a faint line of symmetry to make sure my shape was even on both sides. To find out where to draw my head, I need to figure out where this comes up to on the spoon. I use my pencil to work out what is in the centre of the spoon and then what is a quarter of the way up. I can see my head is just about on the quarter mark and my chin is on the halfway mark. Dividing the spoon into thirds widthways helps me to understand where to draw my arms, legs and the side of my body. I can see my top comes up to halfway. I draw this in remembering to curve my shapes. I use the same principles to draw in my facial features. If I divide my face shape into half, quarters or into thirds, where do my eyes, nose, mouth, hair and even fringe line up? Remember, this is not a normal portrait, it has been distorted. Only draw what you can actually see and not what you think you can see. That is the golden rule. At this point, I feel confident to start shading sensitively. This will help me work out the 3D form of my face, carefully observing where the light hits and the shadows fall. Now that I have drawn in my main focal point, I can start adding in the background. I always start with the biggest and easiest shapes to draw, using my pencil to measure these against the shape of the spoon and what I have already drawn, remembering to capture the shapes exactly as I see them, which is distorted and kind of weird looking. Once I have drawn in the bigger shapes, I start to divide these up to fit in the smaller ones. Halves, quarters, thirds, what lines up with what? At this point, I begin to add shading again. Not so sensitively this time, as shading in my darkest dark tone helps me to work out the midtones I need to shade in the rest of the curtains. The rest of my drawing continues along much the same line, measuring proportions where different parts line up with each other, checking shape and scale, shading using a wide range of tone and paying close attention to detail. Even adding my webcam adds a sense of quirkiness and character. It is important to spend time going back over your shading. This is to help differentiate between the midtones and add definition to your shapes. If something has a pattern on it, I usually leave it till quite near the end of the drawing, keeping it loose with an expressive style of mark making, not really worrying too much about the accuracy. Finally, I spend time working into and fine-tuning the detail, particularly on the main focal point as this is the part that your eye is most drawn to. You want to make sure you are emphasising form, considering light and shadow to make your drawing look 3D. I use a rubber to pick out the highlights, cutting off a corner of my big rubber to get a sharp edge for the detail. I need to work back into the shape with a sharp pencil, making sure I keep the tone consistent with the rest of the drawing and edges sharp or blended where appropriate. If I don't want my highlights to be too bright, I just press the rubber gently, softly using a very light pressure. I'm going to finish this off by drawing the edge of the spoon. This is made up of high contrasting light and dark tones and sharp edged shapes. I need to use a sharp pencil, sharp rubber and a very sharp attention to detail to get this right, but this will finish off the drawing very, very nicely. Last but not least, rub out the smudges outside of the spoon and you're done. Look forward to seeing all of your wonderful drawings.